We are currently living in a time Jesus refers to as the birth pains. Jesus was likening last days events to a woman in labor. As the labor progresses, the pains increase in both frequency and intensity until the baby finally comes. This is how end-time signs such as wars, famines, pestilences, and earthquakes will occur.
More than 60 people were killed, many of them in their cars, trying to escape raging forest fires in central Portugal. The fires broke out this weekend during a severe heat wave.
Case. Right now, Rena, we can confirm that the FBI is investigating the stabbing as a possible terrorist act.
Brussels is on edge after shots were fired and explosions rocked the main train station at about 8:30 p.m. Eyewitnesses are sharing images of flames inside the station on social media. Military police took down a suspect immediately after an explosion inside the station. Loud bangs could be heard. The suspect shot as police quickly secured the area packed with locals and tourists on a summer night.
We saw the fear in their eyes. We saw that they were running so fast and that there had to be something that made them run.
Within minutes, the station was locked down, swarmed by heavily armed military troops and police. No reports of any injuries or deaths, but Belgian officials are calling this a terrorist attack. This is Europe's third attack in just 3 days. Sunday night, a white man drove his van through a crowd of Muslims leaving their late-night prayers outside a mosque in London, injuring almost a dozen people. And yesterday in Paris, when a suspect set his car on fire and rammed it into a police van, hoping to cause an explosion on the crowded Champs-Élysées.
Finnish police say they have foiled a terrorist attack targeting a church in Helsinki. The Tempeliokio Church, a popular tourist attraction in the heart of the city, built directly into a piece of stone, is less than a kilometre from the Finnish parliament and supposedly was a planned target for terrorists. The Finnish Security Intelligence Service has made an assessment that the threat of terrorism has increased. A 2015 assessment indicated a high risk of a single terror attack, and we have now elevated the general threat level. This means that we are now very well prepared. Helsinki police sent several units to patrol near the so-called Rock Church to try to apprehend a suspect in the area, although it remains unclear whether any arrests were made.
The number of terrorist attacks across Western Europe linked to the so-called Islamic State group are on the rise. The UK, France and Belgium appear to be the countries most targeted by IS detachments or solo operatives. All three are actively involved in the anti-Daesh coalition in both Syria and Iraq. The US is by far and away the largest contributor, though France is second in terms of military strikes and third in the number of resources, with naval, air and ground forces deployed. Britain is also active, with special forces in situ. Belgium contributes a vessel and aircraft, but as the symbolic capital of Europe, Brussels is vulnerable. Since 2014, Daesh has been under the coalition Kosh. Its caliphate straddling Iraq and Syria has been eroded, and now the endgame is in sight, with Mosul close to capitulation and Raqqa under assault. The jihadists are exporting their doctrine and bloody carnage across Europe to attack liberal values and behaviour. Many foreign fighters have fled the coalition assaults and returned to their countries of origin to continue the fight at home. The International Institute for the Study of Radicalisation estimates around 700 French, 500 British and 250 Belgians are radicalised and ready to wage jihad. In the hands of murderers, everyday objects become killing machines almost impossible for the security services to predict and defend against. The targets tend to be soft and symbolic: the Champs-Élysées, Borough Market, Westminster Bridge, transport hubs. The idea: to destabilise and divide, to sow hatred, distrust and retaliation.
Akid's mission is to supply the Syrian Democratic Forces' most advanced positions inside Raqqa. He drives around the city in this homemade armored vehicle. The streets are deserted. The whole city is mine.
Food, water, everything they need, I carry everything. And even sometimes, if there are wounded comrades, I will go back to look for them.
Today, he delivers food to this sniper position in the Romagna district with his comrade. Around 20 fighters hold this unfinished building.
We are at the front. From here it is controlled by the Islamic State group. We control the whole neighborhood to this line.
Everyone rushes to their combat station. Takushin, along with 3 other shooters, fires back towards a building where they have spotted enemy snipers.
You see those buildings down there, where there is a residence? They're in the 3rd building.
The Islamic State position is simply too far for these machine guns, so the fighters have called in an airstrike.
Moments later, the coalition bombs the designated target.
Tuesday, June 20, Duterte said Maute militants left him no choice but to impose military rule. During his visit to an evacuation center in Iligan City, Duterte said, quote, "I have to drive them out, but I am very sorry." That same day, Philippine aircraft and troops renewed their fight against Maute militants in an attempt to end the fighting before the weekend's Eid al-Fitr festival. The Philippine military said 257 militants, 62 soldiers, and 26 civilians have been killed during the conflict.
More than 450 earthquakes have been recorded in the area since June 12th. The most recent was a magnitude 3 that hit June 19th, around 9 miles northeast of West Yellowstone, Montana. The highest magnitude quake measured 4.5. It struck Yellowstone National Park June 15th, and it marked the strongest trembler in the region since 2014. The University of Utah, part of the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, says seismic activity near volcanoes can signal an eruption is about to take place.
The mudslide came roaring downhill on Tuesday, ripping down trees, burying homes, and killing at least 11 people in the Guatemalan city of San Pedro Sula. The death toll from the rainy season that started in May now stands at 18.
Severe weather, the first full day of summer here.
And it is a hot one out there for so many. They've had triple-digit temperatures for an entire week in the Southwest. And as you can see there, people are trying to find relief anywhere in any way they can.
And this, of course, as the Gulf Coast braces for Tropical Storm Cindy, and you're looking live at rough waters in New Orleans this morning. There are actually urgent warnings this morning about heavy rain that could cause life-threatening flash floods. We want everyone to take this seriously.
Overnight, Tropical Storm Cindy moving in and dumping heavy rain along the Gulf Coast. Flooding concerns prompting the governor of Alabama to declare a state of emergency. In Gwinnett County, Georgia, this family had to be rescued after their home was overtaken by floodwaters. The downpour and waterspouts leaving Florida beaches deserted. In New Orleans, along Bourbon Street, people ducking into bars to escape the rain. And miles off the Louisiana coast, it's blowing bad out here. Oil companies quick to get workers off those rigs. The big fear, flooding. People racing to protect homes. Workers building a levee 4.5 feet tall and more than a mile long.
It is a serious event that's not only going to bring us rain and wind, but it's going to bring us water.
After Hurricane Katrina, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers spent $14.5 billion on one of the world's most remarkable hurricane protection systems to encircle New Orleans. The largest flood control structure is nicknamed the Great Wall of St. Bernard Parish. It's a 1.8-mile-long barrier. Some of the steel support piles extend 200 feet underground. In addition, there are new state-of-the-art pump stations so powerful combined could fill the Superdome with water in less than 90 seconds.
A U.S. jet battling Islamic State shooting down an Iranian-made drone in Syria on Tuesday, the latest in a series of incidents stoking tensions in the war-torn country. The Pentagon said the pro-government drone, quote, displayed hostile intent and advanced on coalition forces near Syria's border with Iraq. It's the second time this month U.S.-led forces have shot down an Iranian drone, and it comes days after the U.S. downed a Syrian government plane for the first time, sparking outrage from Russia and Iran as they back Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the 6-year-old war. The threat of a direct U.S.-Russia confrontation rising after Moscow threatened to target U.S. planes flying west of the Euphrates River. The U.S. on Tuesday warning it would not, quote, tolerate any hostile intent and action of pro-regime forces.
According to U.S. officials, Iran has established a drone airfield inside Syria not far from a U.S. military base. The area could be the source of drones that have recently threatened U.S. troops. America has established a 55-mile deconfliction zone around the base and warned that any craft entering it may be intercepted.
If a small group sends in operatives and impudently tries to prove itself to some of our enemies in the region and around the world by attempting to undermine the greatness of the Islamic Republic of Iran, it definitely receives a response, a most decisive response.
That's right. The Pentagon also announced today that coalition forces killed Turki al-Banali, the self-proclaimed Grand Mufti or chief cleric of ISIS, in an airstrike May 31st in Mayadeen, Syria, not far from Raqqa. Al-Banali had a central role in recruiting foreign terrorist fighters, according to the Pentagon. He provided propaganda to incite murder and was a close confidant of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS. He was also on the U.S. Treasury's sanctions list and faced UN sanctions as well. This is being considered a pretty big hit by the U.S. coalition.
Green on blue attacks are when Afghan forces, either infiltrators or defectors, purposefully fire on coalition troops. It's been a Taliban tactic for years.
This is an achievement for the Mujahideen, who have managed to create mistrust among the enemy forces.
Such attacks peaked during Obama's troop surge. It got so bad that they rewrote the book on security. First, American soldiers training Afghans were assigned bodyguards. Then, all coalition troops were ordered to have their weapons loaded at all times. Afghan recruits were made to go through an 8-step vetting process, while an Inquisition-like body purged anyone it deemed radical. Yet, here we are.
There's 7 U.S. Army soldiers that have been wounded in northern Afghanistan. Now, this comes a week after 3 U.S. Army soldiers were killed in a similar incident.
In a late-night series of tweets on Monday, Netanyahu accused Abbas of lying to the world about his attitude toward terrorism. Last week, Netanyahu pointed out that the Palestinian Authority named a public square after the terrorist who planned the 1974 Ma'alot massacre. The terror attack in northern Israel resulted in the deaths of 22 children. Additionally, Netanyahu says that after Friday's Jerusalem terror attack, Abbas's Fatah movement decorated the house of one of the killers with flags. Although the Palestinian Authority has not claimed responsibility for the Friday attacks, it has accused Israel of war crimes for the deaths of the terrorists. The Prime Minister's tweet storm came hours after U.S. President Donald Trump's peace envoy Jason Greenblatt arrived in Israel.
South Korea's new president will travel to the White House for talks on de-escalating the North's nuclear threat.
Would Kim Jong-un ever agree to freeze his nuclear weapons program? What are you going to give him?
우선은 Kim Jong-un currently has a blind faith that his nuclear and missile programs will protect him and his regime. And so we must show and teach North Korea that this belief is incorrect. If North Korea gives up its nuclear program and missile programs and wants to start a dialogue, then I believe we can send a message that we will not threaten Kim Jong-un's regime, and we can even provide assistance to them. And that is why I fully agree with President Trump that we need stronger sanctions and pressure on North Korea to the level that we have never reached before. Maximum pressure.
A van driver has been killed after migrants dragged several huge tree trunks onto a motorway near the French port of Calais. His Polish-registered van burst into flames when it crashed into a truck that had braked suddenly to avoid the roadblock. 9 Eritrean migrants were arrested after French authorities found them hiding in one of the trucks halted by the tree trunks. Many migrants congregate on motorways or along the rail line that goes through the Channel Tunnel. They regularly drag objects onto the road, forcing vehicles to stop. They often slip into the cargo section and hide in trucks bound for Britain.
When the British people voted last June, they did not vote to become poorer or less secure. They did vote to leave the EU, and we will leave the EU. But it must be done in a way that works for Britain, in a way that prioritises British jobs and underpins Britain's prosperity.
Excellence in the form of extreme heat that we are experiencing right now will be nothing compared to what's coming in the tribulation, as we read in Revelation 16:8 and 9. Then the fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and power was given to him to scorch men with fire, and men were scorched with great heat, and they blasphemed the name of God who has power over these plagues, and they did not repent and give him glory.